Yeah, so we've got a couple of quick updates this week. One is I found a new tool this weekend. As I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, I've been working on a personal project that has a pretty big migration. And one of the issues that I ran into is one of the larger files that has like over a million rows doesn't have an ID, doesn't have an index. And believe it or not, I've actually never run a migration before where that didn't exist. So I haven't ever had to use a multi-column, CSV as an index. And I kind of assumed that Drupal migration supports, multiple columns as an index. But for whatever reason, in some short testing I did, I couldn't get it to work. So I started, rather than diving down that rabbit hole and figuring it out, I figured that there had to be an easy way to take a CSV and concatenate two columns to make an ID, because two of the columns were unique across, if you combine them, they were unique. And so when I ran the initial migration, I literally just opened the file, created a new column, concatenated two. But the problem is, like I said, it has 1,200,000 rows. It's 19 megabytes. That, you would create the column, do the concatenation, copy it, and it would take, it would lock up for a minute and a half. Then it would copy. You could save it, move on. It was great. But I thought about it like I need to be able to repeat this because this is a changing data set that I download whenever I need to run it. And I didn't want to have to, open it. There's also human error there with concatenating if I type it wrong, all that kind of stuff. So I started looking around. I'm like, so I started using, League CSV because there's tools in Drupal to do that. But again, I was like, this is way more complex than it should be. There has to be a tool that will allow me to do this on the command line in a repeatable way. And I found this project called Miller, and I was completely and utterly blown away by this project. It is one of it's just a simple indexable data processor essentially. So you can use it with CSVs, with JSON, that kind of stuff. But basically you pass it in a file. I told it, take these two columns, combine them together, almost like a PHP syntax, like, with, dot to combine them, and then name it this and output it to a new file. It took me about 5 minutes to install and get the syntax right and run it. But the thing that really impressed me is that 1.2 million row CSV takes it less than 1 second to process and generate the new column. You run it and it just immediately generates it super, super fast. One of the things that I realized with this tool is, and this is kind of what it's really for, the claim to fame is it's for data processing. So if you have a CSV or JSON data set or something like that, and you need to manipulate the data to output something better, this is a great way to pre-process that. You can, like I said, you can create a new index, you can delete fields that you don't need, things like that. And it's just it is one of the fastest things that have run like that. It is mind-boggling how fast it is. So if you have a large data set that you need to kind of munge and build a report on, this is a great way to kind of make that programmatic. I was very impressed.